What's up, Internet? My name's Nerdy.
And I'm Clarose.
And this is a Wheel of Time couch interview from JordanCon 2023, live but not live, from a hotel in Atlanta, Georgia. The 15th anniversary of JordanCon, and we're so happy to be sitting on the couch talking about the Wheel of Time today with the dragon, Reread.
Reread. Yeah, please introduce yourselves.
Yeah, I'm Alice Sullivan.
I'm Jeff Lake.
And I'm Michael Sparkman.
And they are the dragon Reread because you have reread the book that you were previously rereading. We
Yeah,
just
no,
had this
right.
whole debate about you.
Well, it depends who you are, because I had read all the books before we started the podcast.
Yeah.
Well, not all the books, most of them, whatever.
Yeah, the basic premise is that, like, many years ago in our teens, we read most of the books, varying amounts of the books.
Right.
And now we're coming back as adults and rereading them and experiencing them again and seeing what we remember, what's changed, that kind of thing. And it's been a really exciting experience. We literally finished our last episode 3 days ago?
Something like that,
Yeah, so...
Your last episode.
The last episode was for book one again.
Yeah.
Because time is a wheel. I don't know if you guys know
So we
that.
figured
Of course.
ending on the first book would be a nice, like, punctuation. So we
Right.
did the whole series, did New Spring in between, and then did the first book.
It's not the beginning, it's a beginning.
Exactly.
So it doesn't
Exactly
matter.
right.
You got it.
So what, are you done with the Wheel of Time? Are you guys like, we did it?
We are.
They promised me that we're done.
Yeah, we had some discussions about just starting the whole series again, but Jeff had this like look of dying in his face that we couldn't do it.
I mean, for them, it's the first time reading all this stuff. For me, it's like the fourth time reading it. And I love it, right? I've read it 4 times, but it's time to read something else.
I mean, but you love it, though. You've read it 4 times.
That's how that works.
Yeah, but we've been doing this since 2017, and we're finally done. So we were
Congratulations.
We were hoping to ask you guys, because you have a much broader range of interests and things that you talk about. So we were hoping to get your recommendations for our next series.
I would... that's tough.
For reading?
That's tough. I would definitely recommend not doing Attack on Titan.
Yeah, the community is very upset with us at the moment. But don't worry, it's not related to the Wheel
I
of Time.
want to know about that. They're upset with you
They're mad at us.
for watching that, or for
We're not liking it very
We're
much.
not. Yeah, for having opinions on it. It's unfortunate.
It's a
It's a fan base. It's a fan base.
It is. They are very passionate.
They are.
For
I
sure.
appreciate passion.
Yeah.
No, I think we're kind of in a similar boat to you because we, at a much quicker pace, have been getting through the series. We started on December 20th.
The last week of December
2021.
Yeah.
And we should be done in about 3 months.
Oh, wow, that's fast.
Yeah.
So
I think
how do y'all break up in terms of like your episodes? Do you do like by book, by chapter?
We do the books in quarters.
Quarters or
Smart.
fifths. And then we do a full book recap at the end of it all. So, for example, the first book, Wheel of Time, we split up into 4 sections, and then we had a 5th week where we recapped everything, and we let our community ask us questions that we would miss during the live chat.
Yeah.
So it was more of like a community-based stream as opposed to us talking about what we had just read for that week.
Smart.
Very cool.
I think we did 5 parts for either book 5 or 6. There was one book
Lord
in
of
there.
Chaos was 5 because it was super long.
because it's chunky, and I think that we are doing a 5 split for not Crossroads or Twilight. Oh God.
Knife of Daggers.
No.
Did we do 4 for Knife of Daggers?
Yeah, we did.
No, Knife of...
Sorry,
No,
it's
no.
Knife of
We called Knife
Dreams.
of... She calls Knife of Dreams Knife of Daggers.
That's
The
sorry.
title structure is
Daggers.
a little.
It's not a very funny joke, but it's a joke to say a lot.
Sorry, yeah. No, Gathering Storm we're going to do 5 parts for.
All right.
And when we get to Memory of Light, the final battle will, I think, be its own section. That'll be its own book club. So while we're getting to the end, it is going to be split up a little bit differently. But yeah, we've kind of sped through these books in like a year and a half to 2 years almost.
Do you know what the book in between those is called?
Which one?
Don't help her, because I don't know either.
Which one?
The book between Gathering Storm and
And
Memory of
Memory
Light.
of Light?
Towers of Midnight.
Oh,
Boom, there it is.
nice.
I was like,
I was like,
it's somewhere. It's somewhere in there. So now that you guys have reread the series, sometimes multiple times, sometimes for the first time?
Well, I guess technically Eye of the World is the third, at minimum the third reread for us.
Gotcha.
How are you feeling about it?
That's a great question. I think we all came into it with different feelings, to start with. Different memories of it, that kind of thing. But definitely like more of a love for the series than I started with. And I think part of it is just having reread them all and really like immersing ourselves in that world and really understanding like the depth of it, because there's a lot in that world.
Yeah.
I think that for me, at least, that was a kind of like enhanced the experience, but also doing it with my friends like made it way more fun. I think some of us would agree that there are parts of the books that can be a little more challenging to get through, and doing it together made it way more fun.
Yeah, we dragged each other
my
through.
experience.
Yeah. But to be honest, I'm a little bummed. Like, we've been doing this for 6 years. It got us through the pandemic. It was definitely a lifeline during that. And yeah, just the character development is amazing throughout the entire series. There's some arcs that are so cool, and we know you're not done, so we won't do any spoilers for these last few books.
Of course, yeah.
We'll do our best.
We are first-time readers.
Yes. Shout out to Ali and Gus for these very
that's amazing.
Yeah, that's to prevent spoilers, right?
Yeah. Spoiler
Yeah.
protection is good.
Yeah, it's great.
Can't be
It's good.
spoiled if you can't see or hear.
Yeah, who needs it?
Clever.
Yeah, you guys asked, what series we recommend, and we're getting to the point where we're nearing the end, and our community is asking what we're doing next, and we don't even know. So
We're probably going to do Cosmere.
Yeah.
It feels like
Cosmere, Mistborn, or there's also a lot of people who want The Expanse because we've been reacting to it on YouTube, but that's sci-fi, so it's like a slightly different world than like The Wheel of Time would be. So yeah, we're trying to take those things into account, because obviously if you read The Wheel of Time and you enjoy it in its mostly entirety, then you probably will like Brandon Sanderson's other stuff as well. So yeah, I don't know. Do you guys think you might do a Sanderson series next?
Unlikely.
Yeah, we get a lot of recommendations for it, but I think Brandon Sanderson, not as a person, we love Brandon Sanderson.
Yeah.
But in his writing, I think it's a little bit of a divisive topic for our
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
But, yeah.
We're trying to find something we're all enthusiastic about.
Yeah,
because
100%.
it is a commitment.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Trust me, we know.
Yeah.
But I guess I can do a little bit of a spoiler for us. We're leaning towards the Witcher series.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Much shorter.
Yeah.
Shorter, but
Similarly, like kind of like deep fantasy world, with a lot going on there. So we're thinking about it. Yeah.
What language are those translated from again?
Polish.
Do either of you read Polish?
And by either, she's asking all three of you.
Yeah.
Any is what I meant.
not at all.
Because The Witcher has always been one that fascinates me, because some people don't like the translation of the books, where things get lost in the translation.
Interesting.
And so I've always been super interested to know if there are any like book club type shows that read English and Polish and can highlight those changes or maybe mistranslations or maybe what's been lost in that process. So if you guys do it, I would love to know if you end up digging into that side of the series at all.
Yeah, well, my 96-year-old grandmother was born in Poland, so
Oh,
she
wow.
speaks Polish fluently. So we can add her to the series.
Have her help read
I'm sure she would love to read them.
Just
Add
have
her forward
like
to the couch.
nanny time, like end of the podcast.
Yeah.
And here's 5 minutes of my aged grandmother trying to explain Polish to me.
And she's a character.
This is going on the internet.
That would be a great segment. Honestly, gold right there. Yeah,
probably.
No, The Witcher's fun. Honestly, The Witcher 3 was fun. That was like a life changer for me, honestly, playing that game. So I've always been interested in reading the books.
Yeah.
We've talked about The Witcher just because we know that we're not going to start a huge series right away after Wheel of Time, because we know my lovely wife here is a massive Aragon fan.
Ooh,
Yes. And Christopher Paolini is putting out his new book, Murtagh, in November, which is around when we are going to be finishing the series. So we're at least doing a one-off for that. Aragon was my all-time favorite book growing up. He was 15 when he wrote it, and watching his writing grow while I was growing as a person, I think was really, really cool. I have not read those books in a while, so when that one drops, I'm going to go back and do the reread for myself, and then we're going to cover Murtagh. But that's just going to be a one-off. So in terms of like series, I don't know what's next after that.
Yeah. We're in that fortunate position where because the show's the nerdy wordy book club, we can do anything. You know, we've done a couple of panels for Star Wars Celebration this year and last year, covering Star Wars books, and so that gives us that leeway of like, if it's nerdy, you know, it fits the title.
Yeah, we've been alternating. No, go ahead.
So now's the time when I push the book series that I push on everybody.
Okay.
You. And actually, you mentioned The Expanse, right? That's written by two people, right? Daniel Abraham and Ty Franck. Daniel Abraham wrote several other fantasy novels called the Dagger and Coin series, among others.
Oh, cool.
And
That rings a bell.
I think they're great. I don't think they've gotten anywhere near the attention that they should have gotten.
Maybe we'll have to do that because we did the Harry Potter series as well, and we dragged Jeff into doing that, so maybe we need to be fair
So
and do
now
what
you
you want
drag
this
them.
time.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Do something you're passionate about for sure. I really did. I was so grateful for the book club to bring me back to reading because I read a lot in high school and growing up. Like, my mom is a librarian, so books were always just around the house, and I loved it. Like, I would be in trouble, you know, turn off the light and go to bed, right? And then when I moved out for college, I just had no time to read, and so I haven't been able to tackle a lot of books in the way that I would like until being able to do but now that it's part of our job, now I know I have set time every week to read, and I love that, and I'm so grateful for it because, you know, I think there was like 5 or 6 years where I only read like 4 or 5 books, which was such a drastic change. So I will always be like grateful for the Wheel of Time and also the Wheel of Time community for bringing me back to my love of reading.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Do you each have a favorite Wheel of Time book?
You know, that's a good question. I don't.
The Dragon Reed Horse.
You're like, I know.
I'm going with Eye of the World because rereading it the second time around, like, there's so many things that are set up that play off across literally the entire series, which I missed the first go around. And something I've also loved as well is like our perceptions of characters when we started this series. Like, we would get so frustrated with Nynaeve and Egwene.
Oh my god.
Much, but we were told that their arc is amazing and you're going to end up loving them. And no spoilers, but that's true. So it's fun to kind of see the origin.
We did a tier list after book like 5. We each did our own character tier list. And it was a little bit after a moment between Egwene and Nynaeve
in Tel'aran'rhiod
that is controversial, and I think rightfully so. It's a pretty rough moment. And there's this beat where I'm like, oh, I can't stand Egwene. F tier character. She was literally like the bottom of my tier list. I was like, and it was after Fires of Heaven, so I was like, I don't even like Nynaeve and Elaine because the circus arc just goes and it's just them being snippy with each other in a room for pages and pages and pages. And so I was just kind of like, at this point where I was like, I kind of hate these 3 women. And then if you cut to now, where I'm like, Egwene is crushing it in the White Tower. I'm loving that. We have Nynaeve and Lan. Nynaeve gets the beautiful golden train moment in Night of Dreams.
Oh, so good.
And Elaine has, this arc of trying to become queen that I'm really invested in. Even if some of those meetings could have been an email. And so, like, it's so funny to look back on that tier list now and be like, I did give Egwene a second chance. I don't hate these women because of the circus arc. Like, the length of this series allows you to have that kind of the growth in your perception of the characters as they grow in their perception of themselves.
I think there's a division here in terms of our affection for Egwene.
I adore Egwene. She's one of my favorites.
I hate her. I think she's the worst.
I understand, and we're in the middle of it, but I do get it.
But like I hate her like somebody that I really know really well, you know, and I really like watching her happen to people that I don't like.
That's like you and Cadsuane.
Look,
We'll never like Cadsuane.
Cadsuane is
it's not. Here's the thing: it's not Cadsuane. For me, it's how she's written. And like, because we talk about this a lot on the show, where I'm like, it's not that I think that Cadsuane is terrible. It's that the characters presented to me has one gear. And that gear doesn't line up with what she says she wants to accomplish. And so I get frustrated with her because I'm like, try another tactic. Just like, you're too old and you've seen too much to think that there is one wrench for every nut. And like, that's what I find frustrating, is that she's so belligerently persistent in this one way. And I'm like, this happened with a character in Attack on Titan, funny enough, where I was like, I just want them to show me him doing something, trying a different tactic, and then in season 3 he tries this other tactic, and I'm like, oh no, I'm into this. Like I'm into this character because he feels human beings don't have one setting, right? Yeah. We are a myriad of experiences and trials and tribulations, and if we're a kind of species where if something doesn't work, we try something else. If the kite doesn't attract electricity, we attach metal to it to see if that, you know what I mean? We will find a way.
We're problem solvers.
And so when a character, after we've known her for 5 books, is still using the same tactic over and over again and getting frustrated that nothing's changing around her, I'm like, well,
then you're frustrated with
it's
her.
you. Like, you're the problem. And the book keeps being like, she's the smartest, greatest of all of us. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, it doesn't even seem like she's...
that's us. Yeah.
Is she, right? Yeah. And so when we were doing our Knife of Dreams, our full book recap, people are like, what do you want to see from Cadsuane? And I'm like, I just want to see her try something else.
Sure.
Even if it fails. Yeah. I just want to see her try a different thing with these characters.
She doesn't have an arc.
Yeah.
Which most of the characters have lots of arcs.
Yeah.
But Cadsuane starts at one note and ends at that one note, or up to the point where you guys are.
Yeah.
Ends at one note. And there's nothing there.
It's a narrative of like, oh, well, old people are stuck in their ways. And I think that that's a media narrative that I don't see in real life. Like, I have a lot of elderly people in my life. And granted, a lot of the elderly people I know are actors who are maybe more likely to lean progressive and to be willing to change with the times. But the elderly people that I know are not one thing.
Yeah. Sure. Right.
And yes, like maybe don't understand technology or whatever, like the joke is, but I don't think that you like get too old to use your brain.
Yeah. Sure. Fair. Yeah. I think that's valid.
That's my Cadsuane. I'll get off of it. I know, I'm sorry. I have a shirt. We have merch that says "Nerdy is right, Cadsuane sucks."
Yeah.
And it's one of our best-selling pieces of merch.
I mean, we're with you.
Yeah.
For sure. So we have a few other questions we thought we could do.
Let's go.
Yeah. Well, what Ajah would y'all be?
Black.
You're not supposed to say that.
Yeah,
I'm burning the shit to the ground.
Like that guy's this
Sunshine.
power's gotta go.
Shino, like I'm wiping the slate clean on this planet.
Have you heard the good news about the Great Lord of the Dark?
Have you heard about our Lord and Savior?
You're like, oh, you think I'm right? I'm like, no, I don't think you're right. I just think they're all very wrong.
It's just time to break the wheel. Let's just do it.
Let's break the wheel.
Yeah. We tried not breaking the wheel lots of times.
We tried it.
Yeah.
Didn't work.
Where did that get us?
This is what Ishmael says, right? It's like
the
in this cycle.
The wheel wants the Sanshin to exist, so the wheel's gotta go.
The wheel is voted off the island.
The wheel's pro-slavery.
Oh my god.
But that's where it gets weird, right? Is you're like, there's a creator who set fate in motion and wants this stuff to happen, and I'm like, this creator's it's sort of the atheist pushback on Christianity of like, if your creator is benevolent and loves you, he does a lot of weird shit to you.
Yeah. Maybe. Yeah. I think it's weird. We've talked about this on the podcast before, and I feel like I would be green Ajah only because I wouldn't be any of the other ones.
Sure.
Like I green by default. Green by default because I'm definitely not logical. I'm very emotional. Bookish is a bit of a stretch. I'm definitely more creative as opposed to like hard knowledge focused. And then yellow. I can't. I would make a bad doctor, so I'm going to say yellow, maybe also not. And then blue, I'm not sneaky.
Yeah.
And I love men. I'm very bisexual, and so I guess green or gray. I guess no. I'm not diplomatic at all. I have very strong opinions. Yeah. So that just leaves green, which is fine by me.
Yeah.
I feel like if I was being serious, I would probably be white, because they're the lawyers, right?
They're the logic people. The gray Ajah are the lawyer media.
I would be gray.
Yeah.
Gray is like the diplomats.
Yeah, mediators.
Yeah.
I don't know. I wouldn't be a good mediator though.
But here's the thing: the Ajah just
seeing what we've
bullies
seen of the gray Ajah, you don't have to.
You
get
know
good.
what? Actually, you gotta be blue. I wouldn't be sneaky, but I like social causes. So like I think that like I'm a belligerent. I would be a belligerent blue. I would be the blue that I would be the blue that all the other blues are being sneaky behind.
Yeah,
they would like put me out there to like distract by like
Activist
standing
blue.
on the
Yeah.
corner with
Yeah,
a
yeah.
picket sign.
Yeah.
I
could totally see that. That makes sense.
like that.
be making room for everybody. Be all tricksy.
Yeah.
What about you guys?
Yeah.
I'm brown all day long. Just sit in my nice room full of bird skulls or whatever and read books. Love that stuff.
For sure.
Yeah. What do you think?
Oh, I am I hate to say it, but I would be brown as well.
Fair?
I'm definitely a nerd. I love to sit around and learn about things, and just the idea of like, because they have ridiculous amounts of money. Like the White Tower gives them a yearly stipend, and to just be able to sit around and read and get paid to do it sounds like a dream. So,
Right? That's fair.
Yeah.
I think I'd probably go Green Ajah too. Like, it seems like they have the most fun. Like, of all the Ajahs, like,
Well,
they're the ones out there. doing
Orgies
stuff.
will do that.
Do you guys do swearing on your show?
Yes.
Okay, Green Ajah, the Ajah that fucks. Right?
The final segment of our podcast is Smut Corner, where we add sex scenes into the book that we just read.
Yeah, go for it. Our audience is used to it.
All right,
We just read Strike at Shia Ghul, and the joke was that Parker Posey ended the podcast by being like, Parker Posey has a gangbang with 100 companions.
Just send them on their way. Yeah.
Just send them on their way.
What is her actual
I have no
name?
idea. I'm dyslexic, so I can't.
It's not Parker Posey.
It's Pose something, but yeah, we read Strike, and that
If
was
names are hard
how
to
we
read, I
ended
just
the
give them
podcast.
real world names.
No, I like that, yeah.
Like the Salad Bar.
The Salad Barbarians.
Instead of
Yeah.
Saladar.
Yeah.
That's what the Salad Barbarians are what we call the
Yeah.
White Tower division.
Yeah.
When we were in Dumais Wells, we're doing the podcast, we're talking about it, and I'm like, yeah, and then Josh shows up. And like, she's like,
I was like,
who the fuck is Josh? And Chad is like, who the fuck is Josh? And I'm like,
Josh?
so I pulled out the book and
He's
I
like,
pointed
"Oh."
to the name in the book.
And I was like, Jahar Narishma?
And I was like, hey, Josh,
Narishma.
does that not look like Josh
Just
to you?
Okay.
like,
Sure.
okay.
No, I get that,
You
yeah.
know, that
Makes
guy's
sense.
real Josh.
He's
know?
kind of
He's a Josh.
No, I mean, it fits.
Yeah.
He's a real Josh.
Well,
Josh.
we met a guy yesterday who swears there's an Aiel clan chief named Derek, which I don't remember. So I'll go
yeah,
for
No,
it.
it's Dayrick, right? Daeric.
Oh, so you do remember
Dave.
names.
Oh.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. Yeah,
There is a clan chief named Dayrick.
yeah.
No, I buy
Okay,
that.
because he was called.
I think that's true.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Fair. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's like 4 people that we call Sean because it's just different ways of spelling Sean. And
Yeah,
I'm like,
Siane.
there's yeah.
yeah, Sean Sanchez, yeah.
Yeah,
Sean
exactly.
Sanchez. There's a great quote. I'm going to paraphrase it because I don't know exactly what he said, but Matt Mercer, the DM, he gets made fun of for how he pronounces his words a lot. Early on in Critical Role, he said sigil, and everyone was giving him a hard time. And his response to that was, if you make fun of someone for how they pronounce words, all you're doing is making fun of someone who reads, right?
Yeah.
Who's never heard it said out loud.
True.
And that gave me such a... It was just one of those like simple quotes that I like sat back and was like, oh shit. There are so many times in life where like your first experience with a word might be Duolingo.
Yeah.
And you just are learning English and you're reading the word that way. And to judge someone for how minute their ability to understand a word through reading it is, but they just pronounce it slightly. Like, I was like, fuck yeah, like,
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
God,
yeah,
we get
yeah.
judgmental about the weirdest shit as humans.
Yeah.
No, yeah, and like there are so many words that you probably don't have opportunities to use in like conversation, right?
Mhm.
And if you're a big reader, yeah, there's probably like 100 words that you've never said out loud and you've never heard anyone say out loud. So yeah.
It took us a few episodes to figure out that there was a glossary with a pronunciation guide at the back of the book. So
Oh, well,
We've
we had a
never
lot
opened
of
it.
new
Yeah.
names
there are some
for a while.
spoilers in there, so we've tended to stray
That's
away
wise.
from it.
Smart.
That's
Thanks.
Yeah.
When we started doing this podcast and saying them all out loud, I had to relearn all the names because they weren't what I had in my head.
Well,
Yeah.
and the show, our first experience was the show, which pronounces things different than the audiobook.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if I'll ever call it Tarvalin.
Yeah, we call it
Is that what they
Tarvalon.
Right?
Tervalin.
Yeah,
Tarvalin.
it sounds
Tarvalon.
so
It's like
southern.
Avalon, right? I think that's the origin. I think
Yes.
that's the origin of the name, right? So Tarvalon.
Yeah,
makes sense,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
What's funny is we kind of, there was a point where we got a lot of blowback for how we're pronouncing some things, and our response to that was just to lean in harder. And so like,
Yes.
I'll never call them the Sean Chan. They're the Sanchin.
Yeah.
And like, we get comments about it to this day where people are like, will you just say the name right? And I'm like, I am saying the name right. You're wrong.
Double down on that.
Yeah.
Egwene is one that I used. Edwene was what it was in my head. And I had to
Edwene,
relearn it.
interesting.
Yeah, I
okay.
learned to say Egwene.
Yeah.
I like
That's
Edwene.
Yeah.
She's kind of an edge.
She's kind of an
So
Edwene.
did you guys, when the show came out, did you change your content for that? Did you cover the show at all?
We did. We watched it and we talked about it. And
We did 3 episodes. We didn't do one for every episode. We kind of
Oh,
split it out.
Yeah, and
Fair.
we plan to do it when the new season comes out.
Yeah, so we're
Yeah.
not done with the Wheel of Time. We're going to do the TV
Right, you're
series.
coming back.
Our fans have asked us to continue
Yeah.
watching the show.
We
Yeah.
thought they would hate it because we were just dumping on it. It
We
was
totally
just 3
did.
hours of dumping on the series.
Well, I
Oh, you
mean,
guys
like
didn't like it?
I was fairly positive at the beginning.
I mean, now that we have read the books, I think we will be more negative when we watch the first season again.
So
I don't know. There's still a
There's
lot
a lot
that I
that we
like.
love.
no, I agree.
But
So as I mentioned, I was kind of the more positive person. So I think there is a lot to love. There absolutely is. I think there's like the visuals are beautiful, and I think that they throw some stuff in. They make some changes to the books that I think are good. You know, they like that are interesting. But I mean, I guess I'll finish the first season.
yes,
We actually
we
started with the show.
Oh,
We found
Wow.
a Wheel of Time because we were doing trailer reactions
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
YouTube, and so we were like, "Oh, Rosamund Pike's in a fantasy show. We'll just do a trailer reaction."
Sure.
And at the time, our trailer reactions, like a really good trailer reaction for us, was like 10,000 views in the first week, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
and the Wheel of Time
the
one.
Wheel of Time one hit like
What?
25 in like 7
Almost.
hours.
Yeah.
Like it was crazy.
Yeah.
And so we were like, oh shit, like maybe we'll read these books. And we got all of these comments on that video that were like, don't read the books. Watch the show as first time watchers.
Yeah, we
Because we
wanna
would
know
love
your
to like
opinion.
have your opinions.
Yeah.
And so at the time, you know, we were doing reviews on YouTube that would get a few thousand views. And we put up our spoiler chat for episode 1, and it did like 10,000 views. And it was so much bigger than any of the other kind of reviews we've done like it.
Yeah.
And we
And
were
so
like,
partway through the show, we started live streaming that. To just hang out with the community on Friday mornings. And honestly, it was the Wheel of Time community that brought us towards the books because we
Yeah.
got to the end of the show. And we had this time slot Friday mornings where we would get up and talk to people about fantasy stuff. And we were like, let's just do the books.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, let's wait till like after like, you know, the holidays are over in January sometime. And you're like, no, let's do it next week. And I was like, okay. And we did. And it's the best decision we ever made, honestly.
yeah, it was wild. It was like a couple days after Christmas on a Friday morning at 11 a.m. And all of these people showed up to just talk about the first section of Eye of the World.
Yeah.
And it was just it was such a cool experience starting this
really
podcast
special.
off of this TV show.
Yeah, I think the community for this book is incredible. You know,
Yeah.
the last book came out years ago, and we were at this huge convention with lots of life to it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
which is better, the show or the books? Get on the spot.
It depends on which section you're talking about.
Yeah.
I would watch
rather-
the show before reading the slog again.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
in all
I
honesty.
would watch the show before touching the
Crossroads
of
of
Twilight.
Yeah.
Uh, I
Fair.
think it's complicated for a number of reasons. One, the thing that I really the biggest problem I have with the show is the finale, and I also understand that what COVID did to the production of that.
Yeah.
We both work in TV and film, and so
Yeah.
we've both been on sets with COVID restrictions.
Yeah.
And
the
they're
difficulty
much,
of
like,
COVID restrictions
pulled
on
back
sets.
now.
Yeah.
At the time, they were in the middle of it, and they had to pivot so hard on the fly to finish this series. And I think that that's commendable, even though I really don't like that finale.
Yeah, and like I understand why they didn't wait. Production schedules and contract stuff for TV is really tough.
Yeah.
If you don't film by a certain date, you lose your actors. They move on to other projects. Suddenly, everything falls apart, right?
Yeah.
So I think they did what they had to do, and I am hopeful that when season 2 shows up, we will experience what they wanted it to look like and what they wanted it to be in a more complete way.
Sure.
Having said that, I think there's a lot of action in the first season that doesn't really work for me,
Yeah.
particularly group stuff. So there's stuff about the future of the series, things that I'm very excited for and love about the series, that I look at season 1 and I wonder if that team has the interest in action to spend the time to build the kind of set pieces that I think that some of these things deserve.
Yeah.
And the hard thing for a TV show, honestly, because there was a point reading where I was like, you can't adapt this to live action.
How the hell are
Just
they gonna?
for a budget reason, doing the raid of the Palace in Kenchiko, the Battle of Emmons Field, and what is Rand doing then?
Reread?
No. He's in another battle. Is that when he's fighting Asmodean in Ruidian?
Oh, maybe, yeah.
But those
there's
it's
lots of
6
big stuff.
chapters of the craziest action in 3 different locations.
Yep.
And I was like,
How?
this is a $40 million episode of television.
Yeah.
Like Game of Thrones never even tried to do something as ridiculous as these 3 set pieces at the same time.
Yeah.
That's a fair point. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so looking at the end of episode 4 of season 1, where Loghain's army of 12 people is running through the woods
Yeah.
while smoke bombs go off, and being like,
Aes
I don't
Sedai
know how you
blasting
take
in.
that and make Nynaeve balefires a palace to the ground with a wand visually, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Sure.
absolutely.
So I have concerns, but like at the same time, I love so much about the character work in season 1.
Yeah.
It's tough.
And
Yeah.
for me, the even when there were things about the show that I didn't love, it brought me so much joy having another fantasy series to watch, because I love fantasy first and foremost. Like that's just my favorite genre, and there wasn't anything else coming out at the time. I left Game of Thrones very disappointed.
Yeah, no kidding.
Many of us did.
And so when the Wheel of Time started and the pilot dropped, I was like on board, and it just brought me so much joy every week that like I never want to discount that, because I think that it matters.
Yeah.
Party going on.
So one of the questions that I always have for people about the show is, how did you feel about the Emmonsfield Five's interpretation in the pilot?
Like the Taviran-ness?
No, just the 5 of them.
Or
Their
like as people?
book characters versus how they introduce them in the show.
I had a lot of problems with Perrin. I think that was my biggest one, introducing his wife. So I'm not a big fantasy person. The Wheel of Time was
Which is why you have a fantasy podcast
Yeah.
and doing
Yeah,
it
exactly.
for 6 years.
Yeah.
I'm not a
Yeah,
big fantasy
no,
person. I
totally.
just made it a significant part of it.
But, I don't know as much about like TV and pop culture and stuff like that, but I learned about the term fridging and, read about that, and that's what they did to Perrin's wife, who he totally does not have at all. And then, she's immediately killed, and that was problematic to me for sure. Yeah. And the love triangle just seems so unnecessary.
The Perrin,
Yeah.
Rand
love triangle. Yeah.
It
was
might,
interesting.
I hope it's a square. That's all I'm saying.
A square?
Yeah,
Wait,
I hope that it's
Who would you
Perrin.
add?
Well,
No, I mean like
Altamont?
no, I mean the Perrin Rand.
Lanfear gets in there?
The Perrin Rand going back to
That
another-
doesn't make it a square. That still makes it a
It's still
triangle.
a triangle, but I like it.
You need a fourth person for it to be a square.
No, it's
She
that's
doesn't
the
do
polyamorous.
shapes.
No.
She doesn't do shapes.
The fourth corner is the polyamorous throuple.
Okay.
That's not how
Don't worry
shapes
about it.
work.
Just let me have this
It's
one.
a tetrahedron.
Let me have
Lars
this.
was the girl who had to put the shapes in the vein thing, and she's like, it goes in the square hole. It goes in the square hole. It goes in the square
How
hole.
dare you
fits,
call
right?
me out?
That's right.
I agree with what you're saying about Perrin. I think
Yeah.
the interesting thing about the change to Perrin is it doesn't go anywhere in season 1, and Perrin just kind of is
Moves
present after that point.
Yeah, he's just there.
And-
I feel like what they're responding to probably is that the Perrin and Matt don't really have any drama in the whole first book, basically mostly at all. Maybe the first half of the book, and so they're introducing these characters. And also there's these other guys who don't do anything for the next 5 episodes, and they didn't want to do that. So they
They're
wanted
just
to,
there.
Yeah, exactly. And then Perrin gets wolf powers and hates it, and Matt finds a really cool dagger and makes good decisions.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Exclusively good decisions.
Right.
Yeah.
But they wanted. I'm sure that they wanted to add a little drama so people could get into these characters. But what they chose to add is just the worst kind of melodrama crap, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a little creepy.
We laugh a lot at the Egwene and Rand having sex in the kitchen of an inn.
Her parents.
Yeah.
Because it really is like,
I forgot about that.
it's
Oh,
it's one of those things where like, I get it from a like, oh, this will be like the set that we have. We'll just let them have sex here. But an inn is the kind of place where people walk through doors to the lobby at any time.
Yeah.
And if you're in the kitchen,
And
the
your
open
parents?
kitchen, there's a giant window to the lobby.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it was just one of those moments where I was watching the pilot, and like even then I was like, that's where they cook the food.
Yeah.
it was a choice.
Not
not
just
hygienic.
that, it's an inn. There's literally rooms full of beds.
Yeah.
You know?
Pick
It was
one,
an odd
right?
choice, yeah.
And Egwene,
Yeah.
I'm assuming Egwene has a room there. But the important
She
question
lives
is, do you think after they had sex they finished the dishes?
No, I mean,
Oh.
come on, they're kids, right? They're forgetting what they're doing. They're just gonna go.
Yeah, they just went to bed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
They had sex and then went to bed. All right.
then they found the beds to go sleep.
Yeah.
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 I mean, I was worried for Rand. Like, we have a personal theory that Bran Alvear is actually a cannibal.
Yeah. Brandable the cannibal.
Brandable the cannibal.
Brandable the cannibal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, just think about it. Like, he's in this small town. Sometimes people come in. Sometimes they don't go out. You know.
And he's like the only fat person in Emmonsfield.
He's, I
it's
mean,
like
everyone else
Sweeney
is.
Todd.
He's like.
Yeah, there's this bit. This is a deep cut. But when all the townspeople are up in a mob trying to get Moraine after they find out that she's an Aes Sedai, she tells them this big, impressive story, and she tries to scare them. But they don't get scared until Bran comes out of the inn. You read that chapter closely. He comes out, and they're all like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Okay.
It's definitely
okay,
not because
okay.
he's the mayor. It's because he's a cannibal.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, like, they don't talk about it, right? The town is
I know.
prosperous and everyone's happy, and the occasional merchant goes missing,
Yeah.
and that's fine.
Well, a lot of people say Perrin's wife was a dark friend, so maybe she was working for Brandon the Cannibal.
I mean, it seems like a lucrative
Yeah.
employment
The
in that town,
conspiracy.
right?
She is the right-hand woman of the cannibalistic mayor. Honestly,
I'd watch
that is a plotline that is almost too interesting for the Wheel of Time. Like,
There's too many side.
The subtext
plots
is there.
happening. Yeah,
Wake up,
can't
people.
get
can
too
you
far
imagine,
into
though, the
it.
chapters of Robert Jordan describing the clothes of all of the people the mayor's eating as
Yeah.
he's, like, peeling them off and, like, describing the next layer of clothes underneath as he's, like,
They-
getting ready to eat the person.
Somebody finds his trophy layer, and it's just the costume.
It's all the
costume.
clothes. Oh my god.
Oh, we need to get Brandon Sanderson on that. Let's write that to him.
Yeah.
See, this is interesting because we haven't read a Brandon Sanderson book before. We've never read any Sando.
Sure.
Brando Sando, as the fans call him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the things I'm curious about is how much clothing description I'm going to have to keep reading moving forward, or if Brando kind of is like, I think they know the Mainer's breastplates are red. I think we can kind of like leave that one to the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he's a finisher. He gets things done. He closes plot lines.
I bet he is.
Yeah.
Those Mormons.
I mean, you had asked my favorite book, and I think, and this is again controversial. I think the last book might be one of my favorite because there's so much payoff. Brandon
That's-
Sanderson is the closer.
You know what? That's
There's-
fair. I
And I'm
think
not going to spoil anything because I know y'all aren't.
Totally.
Let's stick with closer and not finisher because that just sounds.
Right.
but I
Well,
think-
I mean, you finished.
I totally get like all of
He
these
gets there
books
in the end.
accumulating to a moment, and that being your favorite moment is okay. Like I get that.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
But I did you have anything to add about what they did with them in Field 5 for the show?
Yeah, I think for me, I love the arcs of all of the characters, especially the characters that start these books. And I think Jeff is kind of onto something with the idea that like some of these arcs have such a long tail that you have to do something with them in order to keep people invested in these characters.
Yeah.
But I certainly struggle to see how they're going to reach point F from point A with where they've established themselves. So I'm going to keep watching the series, and I'm going to see where it goes. But the idea of Matt Cauthon as a shady thief, and his dad is like this kind of horrible person. Where in the books they're like Matt is actually a good person. He's just mischievous, right? And
It's like they misinterpreted the horse trader as like a car dealer. Like, and that's where he learns it from.
But-
Because it was a bit off-putting, like going from the show and then reading it, and being like, oh, that's not him at all.
So I understand the challenges of making a TV series, and I actually have no issues with adapting with an adaptation that makes significant changes to the story as long as it keeps the spirit. So I want to see where season 2 goes.
With the Matt thing, they've given themselves. First of all, I'm really glad they cut, because I read the leaked script that had the longer sex scenes in them, and I'm really glad they cut the Matt literally taking the bracelet off of her as he's performing cunnilingus on her.
Yeah.
Like I feel like that is not the character from the books.
No.
But in going into his storyline post undaggering, he wakes up and is like, oh yeah, my dad was this great award-winning quarterstaff master who was a great father and warrior who taught me this.
Yeah.
And if they do the Galad Gowan Matt threesome, I don't know that I'm gonna buy that this version of Matt's dad was a great father who like taught him the ways of the quarterstaff.
Okay, where I thought you were going with that is that when he has his memories replaced, he gets his dad memories replaced, and he remembers that he's got this great quarterstaff warrior dad.
Could you imagine he's not actually remembering his own dad? It's like
They could do that actually because they could move.
They could move
They could
him
move the
getting
Elfin door
stuff.
from Ruidian.
Yeah.
They could move it to the White Tower.
Yeah, he might do that immediately, and then it changes his memories he has of his own father, and it's actually a father he had in a past
Or
life.
it's just a past version of himself as a quartermaster.
Or that, yeah.
Or quarterstaff master, right? Like
And,
they
then,
could
and
just
none
move
of his
that
friends
earlier.
bring up that that's all BS because they like the new guy way better than the old guy.
Well, because how like there is an element of Ruidian where I'm like, Ruidian is a season of television.
Yeah.
Going there, all of the stuff that happens there, and from a budgetary point, like that is an the Ruidian is expensive.
Yeah.
And not having to take everybody to Ruidian and having Matt's Ruidian stuff already have taken place, like removing some of the elements of that earlier on in the story might actually make it easier for them to kind of have Ruidian really be about Rand and about Avienda and Moraine and the three of their journey, and not having a fourth person go on like a spiritual quest in Ruidian.
Right.
So one thing I liked about the show and the Immense Field 5 is that they made it ambiguous which of them is the Dragon Reborn, right? It could be girls too, which in this book is totally not on the table.
Yeah.
And I think that makes the story a little bit stronger because there's just these two women that also are there that are just sort of tagging along. And
We actually,
That's a shame because we hated that.
Oh, yeah?
Well, 'cause-
our thing when we watched it, we were like, yeah, fine, whatever. We didn't think of it at all. And then reading the books, the one thing that makes Egwene's character incredibly interesting at the beginning is her choice to go with them, not her having to go with them.
True.
And so, like, that kind of undermined that side of her character development to me, because I was like, oh, the book version is kind of cooler. Even though I do get what they tried to do for the show, putting all these 5 people kind of on even footing in a way, and leaving that mystery a bit open, and not for people who hadn't read the books, like not knowing where it's going to go.
Yeah.
So it's weird because I kind of like hate it, but I also kind of like it and understand.
Well, we had, so when we were watching it, if you go back and watch like the original videos that we were making, I'm in those videos being like, of course it's not one of the girls. That would be terrible. Because then, like, the only interesting thing about the dragon in this time period is if he's a man and there's a downside to being the most powerful person on Earth. But if one of the girls ends up being the Dragon Reborn, then you just have,
Then they go train
she's
at the White
just
Tower
the most powerful person.
Yeah.
She's gone, right?
Yeah.
And so if
the
it's not one of the
madness doesn't come into
guys
play.
who has to have this inner turmoil and this war with the Taint, which is just the funniest. I'm so glad it's the
The
Taint.
Dark
We
One's
laugh
taint.
about
Oh my
that.
God.
Yeah, you gotta clean the taint.
The
Cunning
Orchid
linguists cleanse the Taint.
Yeah.
If it's not one of the boys and it's one of the girls, why is the series 14 books long? There's no downside to her being the Dragon Reborn.
Yeah.
There's no negative to it.
That's a very good point. I mean,
And-
like, there's still like the idea that whoever is the dragon is destined to destroy the world, right? So
The show doesn't go into that as much.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And that's kind of the problem, right?
But,
The
yeah.
books do. In the books, you get the vibe that like everybody hates the books
the
set up that
Dragon
the
Reborn
dragon
is
is
evil
as
and
scary to
Yeah.
people as the Dark One, right?
Yeah.
But the show doesn't really. It's kind of like how the show also doesn't really set up the Horn of Valyr. It just kind of shows up in episode 8,
Oh, I know.
and I was like,
Yeah.
"What the fuck is the
Yeah,
Horn of
the book
Valyr?"
kind of doesn't either. We just read
No,
the
it does.
book.
There's the whole.
There's the
Tom does the
story.
whole great chant about it,
Oh,
and
yeah.
throughout the whole first book, you hear like every town they go to. There's
There's the
all of
hunters
these
for
people
the
are
horn.
gathering to like
Yeah.
say the oaths of the Horn of Valyr, and so
That's interesting. Yeah.
it's like every like 3 chapters in the book because we in our book club we were like, oh, they talk about the Horn of Valyr all the time.
I see what you mean.
Yeah.
So you're talking about like setting up the artifact as an item in the books versus in the TV
And
series.
setting up that there are
Yeah.
people, it is so important that hundreds of people in different countries our characters are in
Yeah.
are all headed to somewhere to go start another adventure.
Yeah.
So that when it shows up at the end of the book, you're like, oh, all those idiots are looking in the wrong place. It's right here. Our
Yeah.
characters found it.
And interestingly, the Horn of Valyr summons a lot of the people who have hunted for the Horn of Valyr in previous lives,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and it's hidden.
Yeah.
Whereas like in the show, it's like, oh no, it was under our chair this whole time.
Well,
Yeah.
We knew where it was. It's-
You have a
should've
horn.
had it.
You have a horn.
But like if the show sets
Yeah.
up Hunters of the Horn in season 2, I would be like, what do you? Everyone knew it was under this chair.
It was under the chair.
Yeah.
They had it was under it was
It's under the sauce.
it was available enough that low-ranking members of that military knew to go get it
Yeah.
in
that's a
times
good
of strife.
point.
Like it's not even like Algomar is like, I have a reveal for you all. He's like, do the thing that you're supposed to do.
Yeah, go get the horn. Like you know where it is.
Execute Order 66
It's still-
over here. And they're like,
Yeah.
oh, right, we have to go get the horn out of the chair.
Yeah.
It's
Alright.
hidden under the set that they already had.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, we were jokingly talking about the fact that having it hidden under the eye of the world is a little. It's also a little bit of like a throwaway reveal, but you're right in terms of like places it could be.
Mhm.
The eye of the world's a pretty hard place to get to.
Yeah.
And, you know, draining the eye of the world, not everyone could do that. So you know, it's like yeah,
True.
it's definitely different than having it under a chair.
Well,
Yeah.
and it's also the only place the Dark One couldn't get.
Yeah,
Right? Like, if Ishamael is semi out of his prison for 3,000 years influencing events, I'm kind of like, no one just kind of like went in and got it from under the chair in those 3,000 years. Like, at least when the Green Man, who I thought was never going to come back, I was so glad when they were brought up again in Ruidian, because I was like, are we really just going to have
Yeah,
this
it's like,
giant
oh,
Green
wow.
Man? It doesn't make sense. Ruidian one of the best two of the best chapters in the whole series.
Yeah, incredible.
But yeah, there was definitely that element of like, so no one just like went and broke it out in the middle of the night. Like,
Yeah.
Right. Like no
No, he sleeps in the
lord
chair.
of that castle just took it for a joyride. Like
no one
Yeah,
tried
right?
it. Like during the Trolloc Wars, no one was like, hey, maybe now would be a good time. The entire continent's on fire. Maybe we should blow the horn of Lear.
Nope,
Yeah.
nope, not getting it out of the chair. You know, if I get it out of the chair, then I have to put the chair back. It's a lot of work, right? You know, it's like, come on.
Heavy chair, very
Yeah,
heavy.
it's a really heavy chair.
Yeah.
One question we love to ask people is, of the Aes Sedai, who is your favorite Aes Sedai with an S name?
I said it was
S
his name.
name.
They all have
There's
S
like
names
70
anyway,
of
so
them,
like,
so you have plenty to pick.
Ciane.
Ciane, which one?
That's one of the
Ciane,
charms.
S-I-A-N-E or
S-E-A-I-N-E.
S-E-A-N-E? Okay, that one.
Is that the
One
one
of the-
with
She's working with
Pavara?
Pavara.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The two Black Ajah hunting buddies.
Love that.
We really enjoyed the detectives in the White Tower hunting.
Oh.
Black Ajah.
Like the highlights of the slog for us
Yeah.
are those two women.
Very cool.
Absolutely.
Based on how far you are now, I would go with swan.
Mhm.
I'm a sucker
Valid.
for a fish metaphor, so
I'm
yeah,
not.
I just ate that up.
Like I'm living for this.
Yeah.
I love that. It's like a lionfish got into your shoals or something.
Yeah.
I can't go into too much detail on mine because I think there is a lot of stuff that y'all haven't gotten to yet. But Severin is actually my favorite.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. You know it's Baron with an S at the beginning.
Oh.
I'm a big fan of Baron.
Baron Severin, yeah.
Yeah, you know she's been around for a long time, and like she hints at these adventures, these places she's been.
Yeah.
And it's difficult to gauge exactly how old she is, but she's, you know, maybe like a low key Cadsuane. Cadsuane's done all this stuff and it's like very like public and like, you know, but Viren's been doing all this subtle stuff throughout decades.
Yeah.
It's
But
like that friend you have where like you'll be talking about something and then they'll drop like, oh, and that was the first time I tried ayahuasca. And you're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
I feel like I'm that with friend.
Nice.
I feel like
Yeah,
that is
yeah,
me.
yeah.
I'm like, oh yeah, it's like that drug that I did, and people are like, oh, oh yeah, I forget
Like,
that.
yeah,
And you know,
Calgary's
I would love to hang out with that person, you know, because like that's the person who's got like just random good stories that they throw in, you know.
You got a lot of good stories.
That's a
will
fun
say.
person.
Some of
Yeah.
them I can't tell in public, but you know.
True.
You know
Some
what?
of them
We're
are
not in
behind
public.
Those are the
NDAs.
best stories.
I do have a lot of ideas. One of my favorite things, so I worked on the first Avengers movie in like 2011.
Oh, cool.
And they made us sign a 7-year NDA. And I was like, this movie comes out in 11 months. Like, am I not allowed to talk about it when people
can't
have
talk about it
seen
for
it?
7
6 years after it releases,
I
yeah.
was like, yeah, I can talk about it now, but
It's a weird
yeah, it was
industry.
I was reading the NDA, I was like, and they were like, no, it's just standard. And I was like, okay,
Did you
sure.
have a day on your calendar marked when you could actually start
Right.
talking?
But I was like, if I get in trouble for like talking about what happened in the plot that's public, am I going to get in trouble?
I mean, you don't want to mess with NDA, man.
Not
No,
with Marvel.
not with Disney.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Right? Yeah.
No, the mouse
Disney
is
lawyers are
scary.
scary lawyers.
Ron DeSantis is learning that right now.
Yeah. Ooh.
Don't fuck with
Messy
Disney.
down there.
No, they got good plans. They got plans on plans.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mickey's got his mafia. The Mickey
No.
Mafia.
So if we can circle back, Clarissa, you said that you would choose the green Ajah as like a default. It's the Hufflepuff. If you could create any Ajah, what would it be?
We've talked about this. It would be the pink Ajah, and it's the therapy Ajah.
Oh,
For
that's
mental
good.
health.
Oh my God, they
Because
all
these
need
people
it.
do not know how to
They
freaking
all
communicate.
need it.
Everybody in the
Yes.
world needs
Yes.
it.
Yes, the pink Ajah are the therapists of this world because Randland needs it so bad.
Just
So
like,
that
Yeah,
would
that's good.
hands down.
Yeah, theoretically the mediators should do it, but they are not good at it.
No, they're terrible at it.
Yeah. They
They're
need
so
a
bad.
mediator.
Yeah. Mental health is very important. Very
Yep.
important. And Randland, probably more ways than our world. It's messy.
Yeah.
Therapy /HR, because I feel like there's
Yes.
a lot of violations. there.
Oh my
Yeah.
god. The spanking? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
No kidding.
Spanking. A lot of just like
Why are you
unexpected spanking.
guys spanking one another? What's going on?
Just at least ask first, right? Consent's important,
Yeah,
right?
if you're gonna
Not
spank,
in the
make
wheel
it
time.
fun. But, oh god. Yeah.
That's-
I mean,
What about you, Nerdy? What would you choose?
I'm trying to think. I like see like where we're at in the series. I would create a like communication Ajah that just like teleports letters around because I'm getting really
like the postal
frustrated.
service of
Yeah.
of Ajahs,
Yeah.
Our characters
Like a
have the
government-run
ability to
postal
teleport,
service.
and they don't talk to each other. And I just am like, it would be great if you guys would just like use the ability that you have to be anywhere on the planet and like be together every now and then. Just like
talk
Or
about.
go to tell Rand Rion and like tell each other shit.
Yeah.
Maybe Elaine, tell Rand that you're pregnant and that you're
be nice.
having his baby.
Yeah.
Or,
You're having my baby.
Matt, Rand could go send someone to see Matt because
Rand should be dealing
Matt
with
needs help.
Massima. Like, Perrin should be like, yo,
Oh.
Rand, this is a bit messier than I thought it
Really?
might be. Massima's unhinged. Rand shows up, and it's like, okay, well, automatically you cut the knees out from under Massima because his whole shtick is diminished.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So speaking for the dragon, the dragon's like, no, I'm here now.
Yeah, he's like, I know I'm the dragon. I don't condone any of this shit. Like, yeah, so that's fair.
The communication
Ajah is definitely warranted.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what color it would be though. Because there's already a brown. Like I would go like UPS brown, but
Yeah.
Yeah,
my
like
We're running out of.
yellow.
They do run out of colors.
I would create the red, white, and blue Ajah, and they would just be like the American Ajah.
Okay.
Yeah, and they would
Yeah,
just be
because
like
they do
overconfident and that's the Aes Sedai. That's all of them. Damn it.
You hit the nail on the head.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good. I like that.
Yeah.
I do like the idea of like the unicorn Ajah that's like rainbow and fighting for gay rights within the tower, and like recognizing pillow friends as real relationships.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, love that.
Yeah, it's pretty subtle in the books, but then you go and you read
Then you read New Spring.
Spring.
Yeah.
They are
We-
fucking
People
in
were,
the spring.
people were like upset at us because like there's a relationship between Swan and Moraine in the show, and we were like digging it through the books,
Yeah.
being like hell yeah, and there were people who were like absolute like deniers of it. No, it's not canon. It's absolutely not. And I literally took a picture and I was like, she wanted to kiss her on the mouth and then she did, and then it fades to black. Like they are.
Yeah.
And then other people mentioned that they were pillow friends. Like it's
Yeah.
one of those things where I'm like, I don't know how you missed it. It's so blatantly obvious.
The one thing I have we're both queer, and so for us, like one of the hinky things about the pillow friend thing is it is kind of treated like something that you grow out of in the
Yeah,
books.
Gay for the stay.
And the only people who are shown to have pillow friends in their later lives, at least so far, we don't know about the last 3 books. Galena is revealed to have a pillow friend later, and Aleda, and
Yeah.
both of those
And
characters
the
are
Reds.
being presented as antagonists.
Yeah, and it's a power balance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's
is a little-
using it for their pleasure and for using their partner. And so there is an element of the way that it's written that is a little bit like homosexuality is still viewed as a negative in ways.
Yeah, this is one of the interesting things about reading these books now is that they started out progressive, right?
Mm-hmm.
In their way, right?
Yeah.
And when they came out in 1993 or 1992 or something. And I'm pretty sure Robert Jordan was writing them to be as progressive as possible. But the meaning of that changed over the course of the book series,
Yeah.
the 20 years or something.
Totally.
And you can see in the tone the way it changes, like how accepted things are. You know?
Yep.
Which is really, and then now the show comes out, of course, it's very progressive.
Yeah. It's just, it's 2022.
And it's sort of a product at the time that the individual archives came out, and it's interesting to watch.
Totally.
Yeah.
But one of the things I was wondering for years when they were talking about making the show, is a big theme of the books is, men are from Mars and women are from Venus, right?
Yeah.
Like there's 2 different types of magic, and they're separate but equal.
Yeah.
And one of them's not better than the other, but they're totally different. And also, like, women always do this. There's
Yeah.
a lot of that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was wondering, like, how are they going to do that in today's world? There's even like the character that is a male
Kalima?
channeler who gets resurrected in the woman's body, but he's still a man. He uses man channeling, and nobody can figure out how that works.
Yeah.
And
It's going to be an interesting touch point for them, how
Yeah.
they're going to navigate that one.
it seems like they're really soft pedaling it, like with the thing that Egwene and Nynaeve might be the dragon.
Yeah.
And sort of like,
Yeah.
just don't think about that.
At this point, her being there kind of doesn't matter a ton. Other
Yeah.
than, some of the Aes Sedai get murdered. And
Well,
it's
she
like
gets
the nail
Mogideon
chain.
out.
She does get Mogideon out, but it doesn't need to be Halima. I just mean like...
And they're only going to have 8 in the show, so they
the
might
character
just...
of Halima might not even be present in the show
Well,
at all,
and-
so that they don't have to deal with it.
Agenor and Belthamel didn't die at the end of Eye of the World in the show.
Right.
At the Eye of the World. So, there isn't even a character to resurrect as Halima right now. They would have to kill somebody else at a different fight.
Yeah.
I wonder
So
if they're even going to do that, where dying isn't really dying in the, Lord of the Grave. I wonder if they're even going to.
Well, they've already done that with Nynaeve, so
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
That's
death
right.
is already not really death in
That's
the show.
right. Yeah.
Although the show says she was still alive, but
It's just like mostly dead, not all dead, right?
Yeah, just a little bit dead.
Yeah.
Just a little dead.
Yeah.
yeah.
It's like D&D. She just went to 0 hit points. It's fine.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
made her death save, no problem.
Yeah. Roll a nat 20.
I actually do wonder about that. Like the not having Agenor Belthamel. Does Shiva not exist in the show?
I feel like when they get to season 7 or whatever it is, it's going to be a completely different scenario.
Do you think they get there? Like, just if you had to put money down right now, do you think the show finishes?
No, I don't think they get past season 2. It's just the way
Well,
the
season
business-
3 will.
They are working on season 3, so we'll at least get that because I don't think they'll just not drop it. But
Yeah.
after season
They're
3,
filming
I
right
don't
now,
know.
so I would be very surprised if they don't
That
release season 3.
makes
I hope they keep making it, but I wonder if they are doing well enough to. It's a high budget show, right?
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
like those are risky. So I wonder. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious.
I unfortunately think that the steep decline in viewership throughout Rings of Power's episodes, because they revealed like only 37% of people who watched episode 1 of Rings of Power watched the finale.
Yeah.
And so I worry that is going to harm Wheel of Time by proxy, just by being the related fantasy show on the network. I hope that's not the case. I do hope they get to the end of what they're doing. I hope they speed up a little bit.
There might be a segment of the fan base. There are a lot of people who are very upset of the budget Rings of Power got that was not given to the Wheel of Time.
Yeah.
There might be a bunch of people who watch the Wheel of Time just to try and funnel some of that money into that show instead. Granted, that may not be a large enough percentage to even like make a dent or whatever, but there is that discourse online that people would rather the budget be going to the Wheel of Time.
That's among Wheel of Time fans, though.
Totally.
And if every
That's
Wheel
what
of
I'm
Time
saying.
fan watched the show, that's not enough people.
And that's what
The
I'm saying.
problem
I
is
don't know
it's
if it's
been 2
large
years.
enough to make a dent, and so we'll have to see how it goes. But those people are out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm a game developer, so when you talk about the percentage of people that finish the series,
Mhm.
there's this famous data released by Half-Life like 15 years ago, where they showed that something like 2% of the people that played level 1 played the last level of Half-Life. That's a wild success, right? That game is very popular.
Yeah.
I think the difference, though, is that if you play level 1, you've already paid for the final level.
It's true, but you've subscribed to the streaming service already. If you watch it for
Sure, but with
If
the
it's
way
longer
that
than 4
streamers, with the way that streamers work, they bring shows back based on whether or not that show keeps people on the platform. Amazon, I don't know how Amazon does its numbers, right? Because the most useful part of Amazon Prime is
The shopping.
Yeah.
is 2-day
And a lot of
shipping.
people just have that.
And so, like, I don't know I don't know how they determine canceling things, and they don't seem to cancel things very often. Like Expanse, they picked up, went to 6 seasons. Marvelous Mrs. Maisel got 5 seasons. So, like, I don't know what the numbers mean to anything there.
So from what little I've heard of the business of these streaming services, and this would be like Game Pass, like the
Yeah.
game streaming services, what they care about is having at least one thing that justifies your subscription every month,
Mhm.
right? And so if you played a thing for 2 hours, but you subscribe for another month, that's a win. You know, they don't really think of it in terms of keeping you engaged and spending a lot of time on the service.
Mhm.
They just want to have enough spikes in interest that are spread out.
To keep your sub
Yeah.
active.
So if you watch 3 episodes of the series, that's pretty good, right? You subscribe for a month, and they'll have something else in a month after
Yeah.
that. That's considered a success from their perspective.
Yeah.
So then maybe Wheel of Time will finish, and we'll all get to see what it looks like when they're all like 40 and fighting the last battle.
Hey, it is a stressful situation. I would not let it age them.
Yeah.
Oh, no kidding.
It is that question though, like if it's going to be 2 years per episode per season, it'll be 16 years total to get the whole show out. Like,
And I'm pretty sure the events of the book take place over like 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Rand is going to be like 40,
Uh-huh.
I mean,
And
40's
playing
looking
a
younger all the
20-year-old.
time.
still playing 20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be like Grease, where you're like, oh yeah, John Travolta is 16?
Yeah, Kaneki
Sure.
is really,
Yeah.
Yeah, Rizzo's pregnant in high school. That looks right.
Yeah.
If you had to put, like, what are you most excited to see in season 2?
That's a good question.
The heroes of the Horn.
Yeah.
Fair?
I want to see the
Great.
ways. I hope they get into the Oh, that's right. They were going to, because that's where they ended. They were just about to enter the
They
waves.
did the wave.
Did they?
Yeah, we did the
I'm
waves
sure
in
it's been
season
like
1.
2 years.
In episode 6, they go through the waves.
And Matt stays behind.
And
Yeah.
it's brought back because it's revealed that Egwene thinks that she channeled, but it wasn't actually her. It
Oh
was
my
Rand
gosh.
who channeled the
Okay,
waves.
yeah, clearly it's stuck with me. So, gosh, I'll have to rethink that.
I mean, a lot of people thought the interpretation was a bit lackluster, so it doesn't surprise me that it didn't stick.
I think a lot of people, their answer is flicker, flicker, because that's from book 2.
No,
If they do it.
I feel like that's if they're
That's when they're
mixing
jumping
Dragon
through the
Reborn,
walls.
yeah.
if they're mixing Dragon Reborn and
Great Hunt.
Great Hunt into one, I feel like there's a lot of stuff that is necessary that they can't cut. Whereas Flicker Flicker is kind of an aside. You know what I mean? Like as brilliantly as it's written, and it is. It's one of my favorite moments of the whole series. In terms of character development, it's not as important as say the Battle at Falma or Rand finding Kalendor, or like all of these like actual moments of in universe actually happened
Yeah,
events.
I'd say thematically it's vital though, right?
Yeah.
The whole theme of these were all the things that could happen, right?
Yeah, I think for character development, there's so much to be done with it there. It just depends on if they have enough time
And
to
money.
spend that on, time and money to spend on the character development as opposed to pushing the plot forward because they have so much ground to cover. Like, 8 seasons, I'm like, how?
Yeah.
We're not
Well,
even
you
at the end
cut-
of the series yet, and I'm like, how?
You cut the Cauthon Mir.
Yeah.
The Tinkers.
Just get rid of the sea folk.
Well, yeah.
Cut them out of the.
yeah.
Cut them out of the.
At this point in the reading, I wouldn't mind if the sea folk weren't there. Yeah.
We talk about it a lot. We're like, what is their purpose? Like, what do they do? They just complain.
They're
like,
kind of
they're
just
literally just
obstinate, and I'm
complaining
like-
all the time.
They're shipping, you know.
They're shipping.
Logistics are important.
They are FedEx.
Yeah, but then they rediscover travel.
Oh yeah, traveling does kind of make
And then
them the move.
you don't need the sea folk anymore, right?
Yeah.
You got something better than that.
I mean, look, from a showrunner perspective, I get being like, oh, I can justify having a bunch of bare titties on my TV show. That puts butts in seats. If you're like, look, you want to tune into the Wheel of Time, you're going to see some titties.
Yep.
People will. Game of Thrones did it to great effect.
Yeah.
They were like, we got boobs.
Spartacus.
Spartacus.
TV show.
Oh, yeah.
And look, I don't know if Amazon Prime's trying to go full HBO here, but like the Avamir are like tittied out.
They're
Oh, yeah.
spicy.
It's true.
Yeah.
People like boats.
I think they should cut the Shanshi.
How would you do it?
I mean, we know they're not going to, right? They
They already
Well,
showed
it's
up.
cast.
Yeah, they were revealed at the end of season 1.
I think the first scene of the first episode of season 2, they should be like, who are those people in the boats? I don't know. They turn around and went away.
Who are those people that created a tidal wave to murder one
A little
child?
I
That
know.
seems excessive, right? Maybe a little.
A little bit.
Yeah.
A bit overkill.
But also, like, I get that it's a magic tidal wave, but if you were to be behind it that close to a tidal wave in a boat, the water coming back out from the tidal wave would like wreck your shit.
Well, no, they're gonna ride the tidal wave in, right? Like that's
I
the whole. Yeah, they're just gonna.
Over the cliff.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
they're just like set down.
Naval
It's
attack on King.
It's like the
Of
Waller.
course.
As not book readers, when that happened, because it's not a post-credit scene, because it cuts from like Moiraine's face, being like, we're gonna go on an adventure, to that, I was like, this is insane. These women have ball gags in their mouths, they're fucking sending a tidal wave on a child. I was like,
Yeah, we were like,
what?
what
forgot
the
about that
hell?
part.
TV
Yeah.
show.
Yeah.
It was
It's
so,
so weird.
I wish it had been like in the middle of the credits, so it felt like it was like this is about
Separate.
season 2,
Yeah.
and it's not like a thematic period on the end of season 1.
Yeah.
And
especially because Marvel has kind of standardized, like, there might be stuff in the credits, right?
Yeah.
Before they did it, although I think a lot of people would miss things that are in the credits, but, you put it as a mid-credit sequence, I think most people are going to know, and then Twitter's going to tell them if they missed it,
Sure.
right?
I think for the Sanchin though, I think that cutting the Duck of All would really help. Because I think one of the problems I have with the way that Robert Jordan handles the conversation around slavery in the Sanchin in the books is there is a element of the Damani slavery that is justified by their power.
Yeah.
And so it makes it a power dynamic thing in that, like, I don't agree with the way he handles it, and I don't think it's very well done. But I can at least understand what he's going for with the Damani. But with the Dakavale, it's just purely just chattel slavery in a way that, like, they don't seem to have much purpose
It's not super
for.
negative in the books. Like it's not presented in a very negative way.
Yeah.
And so,
It's
like,
not super positive either, but still, it should be a lot more. I don't know,
It
punished.
should be really
Probably
clear
right
that
word.
this is not. We're not okay with this, right?
Yeah.
Well, and it gets into my issue with it, which is that, like, if you're going to have a series, and we have a lot of people in our community who disagree with us on this, but this is just my opinion, is that if you're going to have a series where you're going to use slavery as a device, then you can't have the characters who are using slavery as a device fight the concept of evil. Because the concept of slavery is evil, inherently, right? Owning another human being, forcing them to work for you in the nude behind like a sheer robe so you can look at their bodies, like that is evil.
Yeah.
And so having those characters not be on the Dark One's side, to me, is like a disconnect in theme about the horrors and evils of slavery in a way that I think the show can get away from by having the Sanshin. You have to do the Damani thing. They're going to do the Damani thing. It's in the
it's necessary,
ball gag moment at the end of the show.
Yeah. Sure.
But I think that if you cut the Dakaval, I think you can make a stronger thematic statement about slavery.
Yeah,
And the use of it here.
It's a protective act that we understand that this power, the one power, this godlike power, shouldn't just be something that's running God, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to just having them be Tuon as a character who enjoys owning people.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, okay, that's weird.
Cool.
And like people in chat are gonna be like, why are you still ragging on this? I'm like, because he made the black woman.
Her favorite thing in the world
is slavery. Matt is literally like, what do you like to do in your free time? Which is like slavery.
Yeah.
You're like,
It's my hobby.
Wow,
Slavery
that's
is my... No, I don't do it because I have to.
no,
Yeah.
but also,
I love it.
I like breaking horses.
Yeah.
And breaking people.
Yeah.
Oh,
Wow.
Wait.
Yikes.
Interesting choice.
If I was dating someone and they were constantly like, oh, I'm going to sell you into slavery, I'd be like, I'm getting out of this relationship.
Yeah.
Bye.
My pet name for you is...
Red flag.
Property.
Yeah. Yeah, literally toy. I'm like, every time it's
so bad.
I'm like, ugh. And I feel so bad because Matt was like one of my favorite characters, one of I think your favorite characters for a while there. Like, he's written so well, and he's got like the heart of gold. Even though Tylan is terrible to him, he still does not throw her under the bus.
Yeah.
And I think it says so much about him as a character. And moving from that, I was like, oh man, like he's just. I get this character, and it's like an idealized version of humanity, like that gives me hope. Matt was like a character for hope, and now that he's gaslit himself because he's like, well, I know I have to marry Tuon, and she's not anything that he likes either physically or like status wise or in her hobbies. Like they both like horses, I guess, like that is one commonality that they have. But having Matt go from this like beacon of hope in the series and one of my favorite people to being in this situation where he's like, like I said, trying to gaslight himself into loving Tuon because he thinks he has to is so strange.
It's so sad, like that. With him and Tylan, this whole time, he does not realize that he is being abused.
Right?
Yeah, he's like, I'm uncomfortable in this situation, and he tells Elaine, and even Elaine is like, oh, okay, well, we'll figure it out. But there are people in our community that have the firm belief that he was not abused.
Yeah, I mean,
there was a scene where she holds the knife to his throat, ties him up, and has her. I mean, like.
Well, and
I don't know how you get more explicit than that, but
he has a wall fall on him. And
flat hat.
There's like jokes when he finally returns a book later, because he returns and I'm like, oh, thank God. In our podcast, I was like, the books are better when Matt's in them. Robert Jordan writes Matt really well. I'm so glad he's back. But then the next thing I read was like, Tylan was like counting down the ways until he was going to be healthy enough for her to abuse him again. And I was like,
oh my God.
What am I reading?
It's like, is this a horror thing? No, this is played for.
It's
a joke.
And that's
that's not going to be in the TV show.
No. That's not really weird with us because Robert Jordan is of a certain age and of a certain time where sexual assault against men was not talked about and it was laughed at. And so it seems like he tried to bring it to the conversation in a way that might not turn away those kinds of people immediately. But I do think that in certain senses he did a disservice to that storyline because it is played for laughs, because there are people who believe he was not abused.
Well, and by having it go back to Tylan, or by having him then go on to Tuon.
Then go on to Tuon, and
it's like
Matt, no.
And like maybe they break up by the end of the series. I have a feeling they don't because it's fate and like I've said what I've said about prophecies.
Right?
I don't like prophecies.
Oh, yeah.
I think prophecy is. I've never read a prophecy in a book and been like, oh, that's part of that world. Every time I read a prophecy, I go, and that's something the author wanted to say and couldn't figure out an in-world universe to say it, so they just wrote prophecy, and prophecy to me is author.
Right.
Author says this is going to happen.
Yeah.
It's a device that can be used in fun ways, which we've had
It can be used
experience
in
in
fun
talks
ways.
about, but
Yeah,
It's just
not
never
your
my
favorite
favorite.
thing.
solved, right? Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
never my favorite.
Yeah,
And
that's fair.
so having a prophecy make a character marry a slaver is like a choice.
Like,
It's
oh,
a choice.
God, yeah.
I want to end on a positive note.
Yeah, absolutely.
Before that, do you guys have any more questions? Because I know you wrote down some stuff, and I want to make sure that we kind of touch on the
Yeah,
points.
do you
You had a question you came up with that I thought was really cool. Do you want to ask that?
The Tavern one?
No, the power.
Oh, yeah. Favorite non-power, non-capital P power, because
Yeah.
there's a lot of that floating in it. I think y'all have been far enough, you've seen several of these, right?
Yeah.
So, we have Matt, we have Karen, we have Huron, there's Min. Yeah, we
Yeah.
have several characters with, non-power powers.
Huron's is the worst.
Yeah.
Yeah, we totally
We all agree,
Like,
right?
that's a
So
night.
bad.
Like the
Oh God!
smell.
Somebody kicked a dog.
Yeah.
Min's
Like,
is also pretty bad.
means I would not
The
like to have
Cassandra
it.
thing, right?
It's
I would
cool.
love that.
No,
Oh,
you
no.
would like it for a day. But like
I would be
you,
so anxious all the time.
I don't know if there was a machine that would tell me exactly when I was going to die, I would press that button right away. I
I
wouldn't
know.
know.
Yeah,
I
but
wanna have all that
no,
information.
couldn't do
but
it.
it doesn't tell you when you're going to die. It tells you when every single person around you is going to die, and the weight of that knowledge
I'd like to know.
I
over
guess
the
you
course of a
can't
lifetime.
see it.
Hold on.
But for me, it's not about wanting to know. For me, it's about the weight of, and I think that we love Min. Min is one of our
Min is
favorite
like-
characters.
Yeah.
She's tough.
Fake.
And
Yeah.
the reason for that is the weight of making the decision of when to reveal that information. It weighs on her, and
That's
that is
stressful.
what's interesting about it. I don't need that stress. It's stressful enough taking care of me and my wife. We don't even want to have kids, right? Like
Too
the
much
idea of
responsibility.
taking the responsibility for everybody around me's future and putting that in my brain and being like, oh, they're gonna die tomorrow.
Yeah, I would hate
fuck,
it.
they're gonna die. Do I tell them? Do I not
Yeah.
tell them? Do I hang out with them tonight, knowing that it's the last?
Hearing you talk about it
If
is
they
giving me
borrowed
anxiety.
anything,
you get it
What do you mean?
Yeah.
Wait! I need them to pay me back tonight because they're gonna die.
Yeah.
They're
tomorrow.
dying tomorrow.
So,
no,
like-
no, you should
Yeah.
pay me back today.
Yeah, you
I
should
think
really.
Wait, why do you say that? Wait, what do you
Don't worry
see
about
something?
it.
No, I
Yeah,
don't.
don't worry about it.
I think that I would definitely want Wolf Brother, right?
I always parent. The parent stuff is really, really cool to me. One of my gripes that we have talked about is I do wish that all of our characters weren't perfect at reading people's faces and emotions.
Yeah.
Because it makes the parent stuff, when you can smell it, so much cooler and unique.
Yeah.
I think there's a little bit too much of her eyebrow quirked in a way that I definitely knew she smelled some flowers this morning, and I'm like, whoa, that's right, well done. But with Perrin, I think that it makes it so much cooler. I love the Wolf Brother thing. I wish that the wolves showed up more often. Every time they do, I'm like, yeah, let's fucking go.
Every time
So,
Perrin is like, I
Perrin.
hate this power, I'm just like, you have the
No,
best power.
no.
Well, and also he's the only person without the power who has access to Teleran Reread, which I feel like would be. Can you imagine being like,
Well-
you know what? I feel really cooped up because of COVID. I'm gonna go look at the Tower of Giza tonight
Well,
and
the
fuck off across the planet for the night.
The whole Slayer is some thing. They can be in Teleran without the power, right?
They're Wolf Brothers.
They have Wolf Brother?
Yeah, they're a Wolf Brother like Perrin.
They
No,
are?
players?
No, they go around killing
No,
wolves.
no.
I don't know.
Yeah.
He's
They're
in
the
he's
opposite
in a
wolves.
chapter every 7 books.
Yes.
We still have
When Robert
no
Jordan
idea
wants to tell us what the
fuck
fuck is going on with Slayer and
To be
Assam,
honest,
like,
by the end, you probably still won't. It's like,
Right.
it's very confusing.
Yeah.
we had members of our chat
You're
who were
like-
like, you guys didn't understand in book 2 that Slayer and Assam could change places and had poison daggers. And I was like, no, why would we guess that?
Why would you
Because
do it
there's
anyway?
there's a story about them that's told. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's
that was
actually a
bonkers.
guy in we just read book 1. There's a cart driver that random at ride with him. He's like,
That's right.
yeah, here's the story of Slayer. But he didn't say it like that. He's just
I was
telling the
like,
story.
yeah, there was this weird guy, and then there was this other weird guy. It's
Yeah.
weird, you know?
Yeah,
And,
there's a lot
oh,
of
yeah.
that. That
he
we were.
kills 2 random people in Farmatting,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
and then
yeah.
he's not in the rest of the book. And I was like, why did you bring up that he murdered those 2 random
Just in
people?
case you forgot he was around, he's still
He's
there.
still
That guy.
somewhere.
But then that was 3 books ago.
Yeah, you know.
And I'm like,
yeah.
you had to remind me about him. When does he come back? Who killed Asmodean? Don't tell us. But who killed Asmodean?
We
Yeah.
I disagree with Robert Jordan about who killed this movie.
You
Personally.
disagree? Oh,
I
okay.
do-
Fair.
I believe that.
Well,
As-
do we want to? No, I mean, it's not really a spoiler because it's never really.
Do you think it's tame?
I would
Well,
love
yeah.
your theory about who killed Asmodean.
I love that the books tried to be like, Master Tame isn't evil. You're like,
So
I think
obvious.
he's evil.
You know, it's like if we're
Yeah.
playing Clue, right?
Halima could have killed his money.
Yeah,
No, it
absolutely.
has to be somebody you recognize, right?
Oh, yeah.
Do you
sometimes
recognize? Oh, yeah, I guess
Oh,
he
he wouldn't
wouldn't
have
know
recognized
his
him. He's
body.
Yeah.
So it's got to be like a Forsaken, because that's the only people left that he recognizes, right?
Well,
Or
but
Rand.
that gets into like the Forsaken suck at their job. They're all so incompetent.
Yeah.
I like the Wheel of Time a lot. I think the first 6 books are some of my favorite fantasy I've ever read.
Or
After that,
books, yeah.
I'm really hit and miss after that, honestly. Like, there's parts of it I like,
It's
but
been a journey.
the first
you know?
6 books I think are very incredible.
Yeah.
I do think that in terms of fantasy series, if you're like, rank fantasy series based on their villains, it would be the bottom for me. Like,
yeah.
Patton Fane is amazing
Yeah.
when he's around. He's not around very often.
Yeah.
And I think Aleda is a good villain, but the Forsaken are, they have been a big disappointment.
They're
Yeah.
comically bad.
Coming from the show to the books.
Yeah.
Because the show ends with the Shamael not dying the first time Rand uses the power,
Yeah.
and like being like a legit threat who seems more frightening after encountering Rand than less.
Yeah.
Whereas in the books, every time a Forsaken meets anybody in
They're
the
a
real
little less
world,
scary.
they're less scary because they're, except for Graendal. Graendal managed to take over a country and turn everyone into sex slaves, which is weird, but like she at least did that on page. Everything else the Forsaken do in the books, they just tell you that they did it, and I'm like, okay, but every
Sure.
time you fought anybody, you've lost.
Yeah.
Every time. Agnar Belthamel died immediately. Balal gets murked by Moraine.
Yeah.
Ishamael
Ishamael
loses
gets
like
killed.
3 fights with Rand.
Yeah. Robin.
Samael gets
taken
eaten
out
by mud.
Yeah.
Robin gets taken out in 1 fight.
By
and I'm like,
not even Rand.
well,
Yeah.
Gideon survives.
Semerhaj
but-
is captured right now. Like, yeah, she takes Rand's hand, but
Semerhaj
like,
meets Rand and is immediately
immediately
captured.
captured.
It's true.
It's like,
And this is
yeah.
like, she's been working on this for like 3 years or something.
Okay.
I think this is
I have
her
a theory.
plan.
I have a
Okay.
theory. I've just come up with it. Okay,
I
so
love it.
everyone knows that being a Darkfriend sucks ass, right? Like
I would
like,
not take that
there's
job.
So, yeah, like it's like there's so many poster children for why it's a bad idea to be a Darkfriend. So
Hater? Oh, God.
the Forsaken
Oh,
are not the best. They're just the ones that you could get.
They're the ones that apply
Yeah.
to the Indeed posting.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
but when you talk about like Strike a Child Gould,
Yeah.
and you look at like the past stories of these characters,
Yeah.
They
they
do
waged a
seem
global
terrifying.
war.
Yeah, I mean, that's the story, right?
And went toe to toe.
It was not real.
But it's so much cooler if they're good at their job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
But
agree.
we
I
got
agree.
to the 100,000 Trollocs showing up at the Manor House fight,
Yeah.
and Rand
Oh man.
Lews Theron
like,
takes
pew,
over,
pew, pew,
and is
pew,
suddenly
pew,
like
pew.
killing hundreds of thousands of people. And I'm like, if the Forsaken had access to this knowledge the whole time, what the fuck?
Yeah,
Why weren't they?
why did
using
they
it?
bother
Why
with
did they do
armies?
that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why do they even have trolls?
And so
Yeah.
that's where like the questions get weird for me. Is I'm like, by power creeping Rand the way that they have, the early Forsaken stuff gets weirder and weirder and weirder that they ever lost. Because I'm like, wait, so they used these abilities 3,000 years ago, and now they're just not because they want to fuck around.
I think that, you know, we talked about this on our podcast. I think that this is a system where this is a series where the magic of the world is worse with more explanation. Like,
Yeah.
like in the early books, like there's a lot of mystery around
Yeah.
channeling and the things you can do with it. But after it becomes a thing with weaves, and it's like, okay, use like 3 parts water and 4 parts air, and then like a little bit of spirit, and you get lasers. Just, you know, like it kind of makes it less good. I don't know. Yeah.
I agree with you. I think that if you didn't have the Forsaken, I wouldn't feel that way.
Yeah.
But by having characters who are coming from the past, and we talk a lot about this, I got really frustrated when they started to introduce Aes Sedai, who are like 300 years old.
Yeah.
And then we meet the kin and they're 700 years old. And I'm like, so much of the first 3 books is about how knowledge is lost over time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a point where, like, if Elise is 700, I don't believe that knowledge was lost over time
Is it
because that
Rhiannon?
character was
Rhiannon?
fucking there.
Yeah. Yeah.
She was
Yeah.
present. Like,
That's good.
Rhiannon's
Older than
mom
Osier, you know?
might have fought in the Trolloc Wars. And they're like, we don't really know what happened in the Trolloc Wars. And I'm like, well, ask Elise. She was
Yeah. She was there.
She
Perfect.
might be, yeah.
And so
It was kind of a big deal.
and like the Ogier, the Ogier being chroniclers of history and living as long as they do, but nobody knows what happened 1,000 years ago. To me,
Yeah.
is this?
Nobody talks to the, like, we should go to an Ogier library. Just do a little reading, right?
Yeah.
But like the
They seem
Ogier
friendly.
write books about history that
Yeah.
they were present for.
Maureen
but
didn't
we
go
lost
there.
it. Like,
Yeah,
and so
yeah.
that's where I'm like, there's elements of this world where the first 6 books, because they didn't have all this other knowledge, they were a little bit cleaner, a little bit tighter, and no one was getting spanked every like 10 pages.
Yeah.
And once the world opened up a little bit to these like, oh no, these characters are 700 and these are 900, and suddenly I'm like, yeah, but in book 1,
but yes.
the Ogier lived to be like that.
Oh, the Ogier, yeah, no, that's fair.
Right?
That's fair.
Like, like Loyal is supposed to be like a
He's
14-year-old at 90 years old.
80, 90, yeah.
So like, it is weird to make your thing about how knowledge is lost over time, but also there's a lot of characters who live epically long amounts of time in this world who are specifically interested in the preservation of knowledge.
Yeah.
Like that's their whole thing.
Yeah, so this is, you're right, it doesn't make sense. I think it's one of several things that, love them though I do, these books don't add up with. But I think that the key to remember is that Ishmael has been fucking with everybody for 3,000 years, right? He has been like, every time it looked like somebody was building a civilization, he would send a wave of trollops and destroy it. So he's been deliberately running them into the ground from the shadows.
For the Ogier specifically, though, they're protected from
That's
the
true.
power
That's a good
and
point,
the Dark Friends. And
But it takes him so long to say anything
Yeah.
that nobody
You know what?
can
You're
listen
right.
to.
It's just
That's
like,
probably
I
what it is.
I said I need to go there and read their books.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
thank you so much. We don't need you to
I
tell
don't
us.
need you to tell me I'm
we'll
gonna
read it
go.
ourselves.
how long do you think an Ogier book is, though? Right? I mean, like if you heard them
We've
talk,
read
right?
The Wheel of Time in a year and a half. They can get through it.
Fair point.
Yeah,
Fair
yeah,
point.
The Ogier are not writing anything longer than the 4 pages between dialogue options.
You would think that
Fair
the
point.
Brown Ajah and the Ogier would have the best relationship.
Right? There should
ever.
be a joint library
Yeah,
studying somewhere, right?
yeah.
There's a moment in the camp outside of the White Tower. The Salad Barbarians, Egwene is going to a meeting of the Hall, and she walks in and asks a question at the top of a page, and then there is 4 pages of clothing description, and then at the bottom of a paragraph, 4 pages later, there is the answer to that question.
Yeah, that one was bonkers.
And, like,
I was like,
okay, this is a bit too much. Because by the time I got to the answer, I forgot what the question was. Because I've read 19 different clothing descriptions.
of everyone who's present. Yeah.
There's a lot of people dressed up in that. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
what are you gonna do? It's
Yeah.
important.
Hey,
Oh
they
my
put
God.
a lot of effort into those clothes. It'd be a shame if that got lost through the history.
It would be a shame if the show did not pay attention to that. Oh, wait.
We need to know how much of their bosom they show.
Yes, that's very important.
Well, and this is where, like, look, I think Rosamund Pike is an incredible actress.
Oh, yeah.
But she clearly is not busty enough to be in the Wheel of Time.
Everybody is
Everyone
like a
has a
double
G
D
cup.
cup or larger.
Yeah.
Like,
That is a joke. I love
That's our
Rosamund.
joke about 90s pendulous breasts.
yeah.
Yeah.
Pendulous.
They
And
enter the
you-
room about 3 days before she
Yeah,
And you can never just fold your arms.
No,
No,
they
it's
have
under.
to- it has to be under.
No. Only, yeah.
Do you ever form your arm on your boobs?
No.
I guess that is weird. I guess
No.
you kind of always fold
It's
your arms
always-
under your
That's
breast.
why under the breast is unnecessary in every sense of
It's
the
like the
man.
default
Well,
way
you gotta,
of folding your arms.
whenever
It's
anything
like
happens, you gotta know how it relates to the breasts.
Yeah,
Of
yeah,
course.
in the room.
Yeah,
the most
point of
important
reference.
part of the series
Yeah.
are the titties, always.
Well, and there's a funny element of Savannah, who's the fucking worst. But like,
Oh man.
Savannah is like so hot that it's like okay that she's evil in the way that the book's written, and I
Yeah.
find that very odd. Like,
She's confident about it. She's like, I'm gonna marry Rand.
Oh, her
Yeah, these titties.
Yeah.
slash Landfair, I think, too.
yeah, and I mean, like, if Savannah just like boobalied up to him, she might have gotten what she wanted, but instead she kidnaps, his friend's wife.
You know,
And
Yeah.
poor strategy. Yeah. It's a strategic problem, not a
That's how you
problem.
get a boy's attention, right? Yeah.
I mean, they are all like 18, so yeah.
Yeah, that checks
point.
out.
look, I'm not gonna lie, I did a lot for big-breasted women when I was 18,
It's a fair point.
and you know what? I do a lot for big-breasted women now. But I am a simple man.
Hey, no shame in that. I get it. You had one more question to wrap us up, I think.
I wanted to end positively, and now I can't remember what my positive question
Got
was.
it. No, that's so sad.
Yeah. Oh, you can have any ter'angreal. What's your ter'angreal? Which from the books? What
Oh,
ter'angreal
it
do
has
you
to be from
pick?
the books?
Yeah.
Oh, I was gonna invent one. Okay.
No. You got it. I want to be positive about things that Robert Jordan created. So, what would your favorite ter'angreal be? And like, we don't know what the red rod does. So if you choose that, be careful because I think it's a vibrator, but it's a vibrator
pretty
that
sure
knocks
it's a
you out.
vibrator.
So
Yeah. You orgasm
it's like
so
it's a
hard you
Sibian.
have memory loss.
It's actually like the Sibian that you sit on.
Honestly, like I
Just
think
bust your brains.
I think you just sold me on it. Like,
I
like
think that's
You
what
want to be
I
like Carmen Electra on Howard Stern?
I can see worse things in life, and like a lot of the ter'angreal do, like they have a double-edged sword thing. To me, that's just all in. I get to come and I get to nap. Come on, you know?
Right, yeah, who wouldn't want that? I'm on board.
Yeah.
Weather bowl. I know it's boring, but like
Roll of the winds.
the bowl of the wind.
See,
Yeah.
I like the Bowl of the Winds, but you have to collaborate with other people.
Oh,
That's a pretty big downside. I
That's a
want
lot
a
of
terrain
people
girl I
too,
can
right?
use by myself.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to rely on
it's like the goal
13
of the
women.
team meeting.
Have you tried to rely on one woman? Like, god damn.
In Robert Jordan's world?
Maybe it's the kind of thing where it doesn't necessarily need that many people. It's just like that they're figuring it out.
They were
right?
trying to change the whole world's weather.
Yeah.
And so maybe if you're just trying to change the weather over your house.
Maybe you don't need other
Okay.
people.
Yeah.
It's raining everywhere but the perimeter of your yard.
I'd be fine with that.
I think that, okay.
Do they have a traveling terrestrial? I can't remember, or is that just something you use with the power?
I don't think there's a traveling girl to where we are.
Yeah, because
I don't think so.
there's a super cool one that shows up, but I'm fairly certain it's at the very end, so I can't say. But
Well, they
Yeah.
do have the portal ones, but those are
Yeah.
dimensional travel.
sure, but if there was
Risky.
something that would let me travel, if I was like, hey, I'm totally craving a croissant, like I'm going to Paris, I'll be back in 10, like,
Yeah.
that would be the dream. For
That's-
sure.
Have you guys seen the Five Guys clip?
No.
Like the burgers?
So there's an interview when they were doing Star Trek. There's a woman interviewing Carl Urban and John Cho, I think it is.
Yeah.
And she asked that question. She's like, if you could travel, if you could like set up a portal or what is it called, a transporter from your house to anywhere in the world, where would you go? And they're like, she's like, while you're thinking about it, I would have it send me to Five Guys. And they clearly don't know that it's a burger spot, and they're both looking at her like she just said that. She's like, I would have it teleport me into an orgy, and she's like, no, the burger place. And you can just see both of their.
Oh!
We'll post it on our
Five
socials.
Guys.
It's one of the greatest
It's great.
interview clips of all time, where they're like, oh yeah, burgers,
Yeah.
burgers.
Yeah, we knew
What-
that's what she meant.
What
Yeah.
terrain ground do you want?
Yeah.
I mean, oh man. If I was in universe, I really like the one that Cadsuane has that can point like where channeling's happening.
Oh.
Like I feel like that'd be really useful. But for like my real life, it's so tough. I should have had an answer to this question.
Not
Now that I've had some time to think about it, although I think the red rod does sound like a lot of fun,
Yeah.
probably one of those dream rings would be really useful, right?
Oh,
If you
yeah.
could get into Killer Enriad without having to be a dreamer or having to be able to channel, that'd be pretty cool. Even if you
Very
could only,
useful.
yeah, even if
Especially if
you-
you're a workaholic.
yeah, or just like you can travel in the dreams, right? Like
Yeah.
that works,
Yeah, but do you really want to risk ending up in like some teenager's like wet fantasy? You know what
I mean,
Yeah,
That's a
like
good-
a green.
Like you have to be really careful what dreams you go near
That is
Yeah.
a good
before you
point.
get sucked into some. Because like you don't want to be in my dreams.
You
My
gotta-
brain is fucked.
Yeah,
I was
you
on the
gotta know how to
internet.
use it.
I downloaded everything on LimeWire in 2004.
Yeah.
I have seen some shit.
You're
Okay.
just riddled
Uh,
with diseases.
Brain diseases.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That poor computer.
I mean, you have to practice for sure. Yeah.
I like the idea of the stasis box.
Oh, we could.
I don't know if that's a triangle or if that's technology. I don't know if that uses the one power.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
everything does,
Put a
right?
button on it, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say we haven't seen the actual showing yet in the book.
She wants the helicopter
But
so bad.
there's like the helmet that Amanda thinks controls like a flying thing, which I think is the showing, which I think all connects. But that sounds really cool and fun to me.
But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's it.
What about you, Jeff?
Well, I guess the weather bowl, but I might
Oh,
change
sorry,
my answer
sorry.
to the
Because
one
yours
that
was so boring.
I know. Yeah, thank you. The one that lets you see the history of your ancestors back all through time in Rudy.
Right.
Right.
Fair.
Or no, you know what I would want? I want the little man that Avienda just found in the pile. That is all the books.
Oh,
the
It's a
library.
library that's
Yes,
that big.
the Kindle.
That's what I want.
Okay,
Except,
yeah.
oh my god, I already have one. It's a fucking Kindle. I
Yeah,
literally,
yeah.
my iPad. I'm like, oh, I want an iPad.
You
Like,
want a
And
wizard
you got it.
reader. It's fine.
Here's the thing. I don't want to buy every book. I want it to already have all the. I just want an iPad that I don't have to pay for every book.
Yeah.
But the authors are still compensated. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want it to come out of my
Absolutely.
pocket, but I want someone to buy me every book in existence.
I think that seems reasonable.
Right? That's not too much to ask.
That's why I got into YouTube in the hopes that, like, I'll just get a code one day.
Eventually,
Yeah,
you'll get
yeah,
there.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like I'm a book reviewer, so
I have
send
a
me all your books.
semi-popular weekly book club.
Yeah.
Like,
You know,
Send me
It's
all
not
your
nothing.
a little while ago, an author just tried to hand you a free book and
True.
sent a package.
I know, I should have been like, guys, buy this guy's. I should have done that.
This is the moment. It's okay. There'll
I was
be
like,
others.
I'm mid-video, sir.
Aw.
No, I think he was so thrown off, and we were all like, huh?
Well, like, can you guys plug who you are and where you're from again?
Yes, we are the Dragon Reread, thedragonreread.com.
Oh, it's on here.
Yeah,
It's
which I've gotten like it's all over me.
All of
And
it.
it can be all over you if you check out armadillo.club, which is our website. We are
That's right.
Armadillo.
They want to get all over you.
And I am Jeff Lake. You can find me at jefflake.info.
Yeah, I do a lot of baking. I'm Alice Sullivan. You can find me at Bubonic Cafe on Instagram, but it's pretty much just pictures of macarons and cakes.
That's amazing.
Right.
I love it.
Thank you.
I'm Michael Sparkman. I don't have any of those things. I just like to talk to people. So
Yeah.
it's gonna be
If you want to
friendly.
connect with him, you have to find him in real life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come find me. I'm right here.
Fair enough.
And with that, if you like this video, like and subscribe to the channel. If you don't, hit the dislike button. Leave mean comments down below because the algorithm god is hungry and we must feed her. This episode, that algorithm goddess is...
We talked about so many things.
We talked about a lot of ladies.
The algorithm goddess is Rosamund Pike because some people don't believe her boobs are big enough for the show, and that is slander. She is perfect. I love her. She deserves your mean comments.
No, she's perfect. Yeah, Moraine. I liked Moraine and trusted Moraine from page 1 because I was like, oh yeah, it's Rosamund Pike. I'm in.
I'm here for it.
Which is crazy because she was in Gone Girl, so like
Don't worry
I
about
shouldn't trust her.
Don't worry
but
about
like,
it.
Great.
look, Rosamund, you can Gone Girl me.
Moraine.
If you want to follow us around the internet, you can. I'm at Nerdy Nightly.
I'm at Claris Polaris.
As always, y'all, do something nerdy tonight.
Bye, guys.
Bye.